Hi everyone, welcome back to Sounds of the Valley. This is our nice little interview portion where I get to grill our artist on all various sorts of things and, ask them the really tough, hard-hitting questions, I don't think you knew what you were getting into when you came on here, but oh boy, are you in it now.
I'm ready, man.
All right.
I'm ready, Nathan.
That's good to hear. So, first question, we'll start off soft. How long have you been a musician slash been in music in general,
Oh man, I think professionally only about maybe 10 years, 12 years as the singular thing that I've been focusing on. But I started just down Claremont Avenue out here at DeLong Middle School, playing the saxophone in the jazz band and the marching band. That was the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And I grew up here in Eau Claire, I think in kind of the glory days of what went on to later be a bigger musical expansion from a lot of people in Eau Claire that have been super successful, and got to be at Memorial High School with that jazz program, and that overall music program was so supportive, and obviously the university was a big asset as well. So music's always been this huge part of my life. But as far as being a professional, this is what pays my mortgage, 10 years. Mm-hmm. That was kind of a long-winded answer. But.
No, it's all good. I kind of have a sort of weird follow-up question. Did you ever have Mr. Luganbill?
No, but I know that name.
All right.
I know who that is, yeah.
Okay, that's funny, just because right now I'm doing a little bit of student teaching at DeLong.
Very cool,
so,
very cool, man.
I don't know, I just had to ask since I also know that he's done some teaching at Memorial and all that. So
yeah,
didn't know if there was some overlap that happened.
I still know a lot of people involved in the Eau Claire area school districts. My mother was a sixth grade English teacher over at South for 35 years. So.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I mean, I just think that the school systems here and the college, we're all very lucky to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, it's a really nice way that they all are able to interact with each other.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna ramp up the heat a lot. I'm gonna make you choose your favorite child. What is your favorite song that you've written?
So there's this tune. I have this band called Cranford. We're based out of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. We have 5 studio records. I started writing this song on record 1, and we didn't record it until record 5.
Oh, wow.
And it sort of became this opus. The producer always gave me a hard time. He's like, this is the rock in C major, concerto or whatever. And it's kind of this, there's a big A and a B part, and there's a symphonic thing. I like the lyrics. And I thought it was a strong tune, but it took us a long time to really sometimes figure out how to put something on a record, and presentation is such a big deal, and that's just what y'all are doing here. There's so many elements at play. How do you present this thing? So I would definitely say that's my fave. It's called Song Field, and it's this 7-minute rock concerto.
That's really awesome. I always love to hear about the little projects and stuff that people have where they just work at it a little bit by bit over time, because I feel there's, in music especially, there's always this perception that things just genesis from nothing and are just instantly the way they are, when I think the larger reality is that just a lot of this stuff is just small little bits of time here and there that just gradually accumulates before you finally have the thing.
100%, man. And there are those times where holy smokes, I just wrote the entire song and that's it, and tape it up and ship it off.
Yep.
But that's rare. And I think one of the coolest things about music, or writing your own music, there's not necessarily a deadline, or maybe you're your own deadline, but for the most part, you can chip away for years until you're ready to say hey, this is ready now for everybody else to hear it. And it's kind of a secret. We don't like to tell everybody that, maybe. But yeah, even just things starting as man, that's a neat little riff or an idea or a groove or something that can evolve after so many years into something totally different or totally complete from one little piece, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So What is it that you would say really drives you in like your creative process? What inspires you?
I mean, I think like number one, first and foremost, is just like these dudes that were a little bit older than me that came from like this area. One of those dudes is Brad Cook, who's like this insane producer, bass player. He's from Chippewa. He's based out of Durham, North Carolina now. And I mean, he's done so much work with so many people and been such a big part of all the music that I love, that I think as far as like inspiration for like continuing to put out new material, like I'm just trying to keep up, or like I feel obligatory to be like, well, these guys are doing all this stuff, so like I have to do something. And I mean, they're way above record sales and notoriety than I've ever been, but I think it's like it's good to have some people that you're looking at and saying, like always saying like, man, I got to keep putting records out, or I need to keep doing more. And I think that also applies sometimes to like genre. You know, I felt for a long time I like kind of got stuck in a wedge, and it wasn't until recently that it was more different sounds, and we were talking about my Highway 40 project that's like way different than the bands, and sometimes he's like the other motivation is just to like make something for you. And sometimes that's like way more rewarding in the long run, simply because maybe there's not that pressure there and you're just putting something out because man, I like really enjoy, you know, hooking up this microphone and strumming this guitar and trying to find, you know, the right mic placement, and I'm running it over here through some outboard gear if I have that opportunity, and trying to just find a neat sound, and then like documenting that moment. I think is like such a cool thing that we're able to do, and it's so much easier now too. Like you can do it on your phone.
Yeah.
So that's wild.
Yeah, I really love your point about just like making music and like finding sounds that are just like for you.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there's a lot of albums that really popular artists or like artists who really dominate a genre will put out that doesn't sound like anything of what their normal stuff sounds like. But if you just showed it to like a person who's not always in that bubble, they'd find that album to be amazing, just because like they can, when you kind of remove all that other context from it, you know, you get more of just appreciation for just like what it is, the sound that they just like tried playing out and around with, you know.
100%, man. There's a cool record or like a little band, and I think my facts are pretty close here, but it's Jeff Tweedy from Wilco and Jim O'Rourke, and he's a producer and another Chicago guy, and then I think Glenn Cochi plays the drums, who's also Wilco's drummer, but it's like it's all like the weird parts of Wilco on like one record.
Nice.
And that's like it's really neat. So they have this record called Lucifer, and I was like, man, this is so different, I guess, than traditional stuff. But I always loved that record for that reason exactly, that it is so different than everything else. Sometimes it's cool to be weird.
I definitely agree. I feel like that's a lot of people's ethos with music, you know. It's wonderful. So, why would you say that music matters to you? Why is it that you've stuck with music all the way since DeLong?
I guess it just like, it fits well with being opinionated about, I guess maybe the way like things should be or life should be, and it's a lot easier to like express that, I guess, through like song than sometimes it is to like say that out loud, because sometimes the things you think in your head and say out loud should not be said out loud, but sometimes you can slip some of that stuff into a song and communicate, you know, and maybe it's an internal problem or a problem with your relationship or just a problem with the world at large, or a celebratory moment, you know, on all those levels as well. But it's like, it's a really good like communication tool. And I think that's what I like the most about it, is it's like, it's a way to, you know, talk to people. When people want to know who I am, they can listen to my records. If they don't know me one-on-one or, you know, don't reach out directly to me, I think that's like a really cool way to communicate. And And I like playing. I think that's the other biggest thing is playing with other people, and whether that's just jamming in your room or on a huge stage or whatever. There's like this very intimate thing, like a non-sexual intimate thing that happens when you share that moment with people on stage, and like we're the only people that get to do that, and that's really cool. And I guess I would compare that to the general situation as like being on a team or being like maybe on a sports team or something, that you just have these totally different relationships than you would with just your friends, or something.
It's like you get to experience something that is just beyond the normal, and it only really gets to exist in that small moment. And when it's really good, like everyone that's involved with it is like really aware with it.
Absolutely. And I think like that's the beauty of doing the thing, is it's like, man, if we're playing well and we find that like pinnacle moment and somebody's in the audience and they're listening and they love what they're doing, they're loving that they're there listening to this moment, it's like this group thing. And I haven't really found that anywhere else. And I had a couple other careers prior to this, and I really haven't found anything that like matches that level of emotional pinnacle moments or something. So it's just cool, and it's fun to be a musician, man.
That it is.
It's really fun, and if you can like pay your mortgage and pay your bills doing it, I think that's awesome, and we're very fortunate and lucky to be in that position.
Yeah. Well, one last thing before we wrap up this interview. Do you have anything that you want to plug? Any upcoming albums? Any like different groups or stuff that you're in? You kind of mentioned Highway 40 before.
Yeah, I got this record called Highway 40. I do it with my good buddy Ben Hoffmeister, and we just have a lot of fun doing it. We put out an EP last year. We're going into the studio like literally tomorrow, or like the end of this week probably, to work on some new material. That should be out first of the year. I have my touring band, Cranford Hollow. We're not on tour at the moment. We've kind of like taken a hiatus, but now we're starting to revamp. So hopefully there will be an Eau Claire show in the future. We used to play here quite a bit. We have 5 records online. You can check out 5 or 6, I can't think. And I have 2 solo records too. So anywhere you get your music, you can look up my name, you can look up the band's names, and just listen and give it the old college try. And if you don't like it, that's cool, but we just always appreciate anybody that listens. That's the biggest compliment to us, is just that somebody took the time to listen to something that we made.
Nice. Well, on that note, I think that about is as good a note as any to like wrap up this interview on. So we'll see the rest of everyone else back with the rest of our show and the rest of the set.